What's up, Tacoma Community College? This is Jose Montoya. I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas, and I want to say thank you so much for having me back. I would have loved to have been there in person to present what I'm going to be talking about, but as we know, due to the circumstances, that's not a possibility. So we're working to get this virtual type of space going, and we are going to be talking about a little bit of the art that I've been doing, how that's been going, and some of the community organizing and activism that I've been involved in El Paso, and how the coronavirus has affected it, and how some of the grassroots movements that I'm working with have responded to it. I'm going to be introducing you to some of my friends and artists who I want to help get their name out there. I promise it'll be fun, and also just going to talk to you a little bit about the day-to-day, how an artist here in La Frontera of Mexico and the United States, how I've been functioning throughout the last 2.5 months. So I'm really happy that you invited me back. Again, a world of thanks for making this happen, and let me show you a little bit of El Paso. Since I left Tacoma back in October, I have been privileged to have many amazing things happen to me. I immediately went to work on my art show, Chicano Existentialisms, that was hosted by Power at the Pass, a creative incubator space in downtown. I also had some of my art on display at the Brannigan Cultural Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is only 45 minutes away. I also had 2 of my photos on display at Paso's Urbanos show at the El Paso History Museum, and had some of my art featured in Barrio Panther, a local literary magazine. At the beginning of the year, I was invited to have another solo exhibit at Dulcinea, a cultural center for the LGBT community in Ciudad Juarez. The show at Dulcinea was up until the end of February, and this was about the same time that we started getting more information on the coronavirus. As much as I love Juarez, I have not been back to pick up my work since I have been trying to practice social distancing. I was then approached by 2 young social justice advocates, Juan and Brittany, to help create content for a podcast based here in El Paso. We are working on that, and more importantly, I was able to focus on my art. I have tried to be productive throughout the quarantine, and I've created about 5 pieces. I've recorded content for a few projects, including this one. I work on my garden, and I started a jump rope for exercise. Everyone has a different approach when responding to a crisis. I hope that this video can shine some light on the issues close to my heart here in El Paso, Texas, aka Chuco, Texas. I'm also going to show you real quickly, I'm going to explain to you the piece that's right behind me, reflect who I am and where I'm at in my creative process. You know, I wanted the message to relay that I am hoping that my ancestors can sprinkle some type of knowledge on me. That, you know, I've been in search of indigenous philosophies and knowledge, and I really hope that my art is reflecting that now. And still babies, look at that. So hopefully if everything comes out, there's cantaloupes, there's tomatoes, the squash, eggplant.
With quarantine, have you felt like the issues have gone quieter or a lot louder?
Oh, I think they're magnified with quarantine right now. You know, I think that it's forcing a spotlight on some very specific issues. You know, I mean.
Tacoma Community College. So I am in Barrio Duranguito. So when I went to visit y'all in the fall semester, in the fall quarter, and we are currently standing here right in Barrio Duranguito. You can see the backdrop of downtown El Paso right behind me. But what I am going to talk about, and what kind of holds me here in Barrio Duranguito, is the art that's been going up. So we're going to do like a little bit of virtual tour of the art that's hanging here in Duranguito. So for example, we have these pieces right here, and you can see right here it says the Uncaged Art, Tornillo Children's Detention Camp, the Museo Urbano. So these pieces on this fence were placed on here about a year ago and they are the arts of the children, the migrant children who are coming from basically all of Central America and South America, seeking refuge here in the United States, and they were put into detention camps. And some of the folks here that are helping Duranguito fight gentrification are now, they also helped put up this urban art exhibit, you could say, right? So the two folks in charge of that are Dr. David Romo and Dr. Yolanda Leiva. And so you can see the art is for children, the same children that you saw locked in cages. This is their work. So take a quick look. I think a lot of the art is talks. We can see faith in some of the toughest times of our lives. Imagine being a 8-year-old little boy or 8-year-old little girl, and the only thing you really can say is que Dios está aquí. That means God is here. So this particular piece here was done by some students at UTEP. When we have our markets out here, this is where all goes down. So there's dances here. We brought drag queens to the barrio. We had classical music in the barrio. All this art is resistance art. This piece of art was made by Mirna Ajo, and it stands at the entrance to what is left of the Duranguito neighborhood. The U.S.-Mexican port of entry is about 6 blocks from here, and this area has also become a community gathering space.
Mi nombre es Antonia Morales y tengo 92 años. Yo llegué a este barrio Duranguito en 1975.
Other students come out from the University of Texas at El Paso, and they painted this. These little pieces right here are from Dr. David Romo. He did those on his own. History tells us that before El Paso and Juarez were settled, a Mescalero Apache peace camp was located where Duranguito currently sits. We wanted to honor them by recreating Mescalero rock paintings found at Hueco Tanks in East El Paso.
Ahora la ciudad nos quiere aquí, tirar nuestras viviendas y todo para hacer una arena. Y yo estoy luchando. En primer lugar, El Paso tiene lugares mucho mejor.
Romelia Mendoza, she's lived here for about 40 years, and she said, I want a butterfly. So she got a butterfly right in front of her gate, the entrance to her house. So,
de lo contrario, me gustaría que a los jóvenes les hicieran una arena con albercas, con boliches, donde ellos pusieran a hacer los ejercicios y estar en una parte limpia y segura.
Alexandra Anello proposed to completely do away with the arena because of the crisis that we're in. You know, the arena is super expensive.
Nosotros tenemos el tráfico en Nuevo México, el de la ciudad y de los puentes, y no hay suficiente lugar para parking de carros, y no es un lugar apropiado porque los jóvenes merecen algo hermoso, algo con jardines, algo limpio, algo bonito.
This has been the last piece of art that has gone up, and it's interesting because it looks like it's been up the longest. It's only been up for about 3 months, but a lot of people have started pulling at it. La Delita was a Mexican female soldier from Chihuahua, and she became the symbol of the women who came to help during the Mexican Revolution, and they all became known as las Adelitas.
Bueno, pues nosotros fue muy diferente ahora, los jóvenes de ahora. A nosotros la mayoría era el baile. De todo, yo bailé Primero bailé pasos dobles, los danzones, el mambo, el cha-cha-cha. Bailamos mucho, mucho. Todas las jóvenes nos íbamos a Juárez, entonces Juárez siempre ha sido mucho más alegre Juárez que el Paso. Entonces había muchos salones de que toda la gente nos íbamos a Juárez. Y no nomás mexicanos, americanos, los soldados de Forlí que iban a Juárez, todos nos íbamos los sábados a Juárez a bailar.
This sculpture has been here for over a year. It's also a part of resistance art, and it is the tando. So the tando is the hat, and I just want to make sure that I give David Romo credit for teaching me the word tando. So the tando is the hat, the sombrero that the pachucos used, the zoot suiters. And so this is definitely a part of El Paso history, because what do we know that is El Paso's nickname? What's El Paso's nickname? It's Chuco, right? So it comes from the word Pachuco. This piece I did as well, this little mural. I don't consider myself a muralist. Like I said, all of this was a learning process for me. I used, I think, maybe 4 shades of paints, 4 different types of paint, 4 different colors. That's it. It was all done by hand, no spray paints or anything like that, no aerosol. And this is Chavita Ortiz. He used to live here in Duranguito. He was one of the residents who was displaced because of everything that's going on with the proposed arena, and we did this piece to honor him and to honor all the other residents that felt like they had to leave, that they didn't feel like they had a choice, and as you can see, Chavita also died, actually, quite frankly, very quickly after he moved out. Those moves aren't easy, to displace the elderly just seems so unethical, and so, but he did pass away, and so we created this mural to honor him and to honor all the other Duranguito residents. So there's a lot to unpack there, and we don't have enough time to unpack all of that, but this is basically how the city has responded. They've also, we did an event a few months ago, I believe it was Dia de los Muertos, and a few days later the lights were turned off here in the neighborhood. So so we had to start calling our city reps and emailing city reps for them to get turned back on, and eventually they were, but it has been a struggle.
Hello.
I am A. Billy Free, coming to you from my music studio.
My name is Manuel Urueta, and I make paper mache creatures like this one.
A vocalist, MC, DJ, and beat producer. As always, working on new music, renovating my music studio.
My art helps because it's a meditation, and it helps me keep calm. For me, being from El Paso and Ciudad Juárez means that I am from a border, and it's basically a collision of cultures.
I've been gardening, I've been reading, sunbathing.
The only advice that I could give to anybody is follow your dreams and never give up. Yeah.
Went to my music studio, as I do most days, to rehearse, and 30 to 45 minutes later, that feeling is lifted. It's a little bit lighter. I can continue on, sort of a reset, right? And that's the beauty of art that we've always known. It makes you feel better to create it, to hear it, to see it, to interface with it in whatever medium. And so art is important in this time. Art is important throughout all times. And I like that feeling. For me, it's a balance. And again, it gives me time to create more art so that I can take it to these centers of culture and centers of music and art and share it with folks. Where can you find me on social media?
Find me at Chingaderas with an X on Instagram and also at Facebook with an X.
So you can find me at Instagram at ABILLIFREE. On Facebook, a.BILLI_FREE. Just pop me into Google, Billy Free, and everything will pop up. Bandcamp, Twitter, so on and so forth. So thank you, Jose, for having me, and peace and love.
I am Veronica Carvajal, and I am a fronteriza, an environmentalist, and a lawyer. I grew up commuting to El Paso from Ciudad Juarez, as did my mom, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. We could not afford the kind of life that my mom wanted for me in El Paso. And so in Juarez, I had access to beautiful yard and daycare, which my grandparents provided. And it was in that house that I learned to love nature, and it was because of my grandparents that I eventually turned to environmental studies. My grandparents and I spent a lot of time outside. My grandmother loved to tell me about the things that had changed in the environment since she had been in Juarez. And then later on, when I was a teenager, both of my grandparents died from cancer. So I learned early on that when our planet is poisoned, our bodies are poisoned. And so for me, studying the environment has always been about studying people. I did my undergraduate work at Brown University, where I did a thesis on Chicanas and environmental justice. And then afterwards, I came home and did air quality, nonprofit type of work. I ended up going to law school, even though I was supposed to go into a PhD program as an Andrew W. Mellon Fellow, because I really wanted to be in the trenches and provide direct services to people. So I was lucky enough to be hired by Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid right out of law school in 2004. My work has involved a number of different areas, including environmental justice, but also housing as it applies to renters as well as homeowners. I've also worked on disasters, so natural disasters, the mass shooting that we had, and then economic disasters like the recession that we had in 2008 and then now with COVID-19. And then one of my bigger cases has been the case with Duranguito. I got involved in around 2016. We were referred a number of tenants that were living in really terrible conditions. And their landlord actually sat on the city's historic commission. We were able to improve their quality of life a little bit, but the building itself just could not be brought up to code sufficiently and permanently, and so they were relocated. And then we worked with the remaining tenants in the rest of Duranguito that were going to be displaced by the city's intent to build a sports arena. The case of Duranguito is, of course, complicated. It's making its way through the courts. We still represent a number of former tenants, as well as Antonia Morales, who is remaining in the community. And the case is now before the Supreme Court of Texas. Our argument primarily in that case is that voters did not authorize the construction of a sports arena because a bond that we were talking about deals with performing arts, culture, and libraries. Initially, we became involved with tenants of Duranguito that were living in deplorable conditions. They had huge holes in their ceilings, they had bed bugs, gas leaks, electrical problems. There was a tenement, so they shared bathrooms. And so after we worked with them, we started to focus on what the city was trying to do with the rest of the neighborhood. And so we were involved with the litigation starting in 2017, so 3 years ago. Our primary focus has been whether or not voters understood what they were voting for when they approved a multi-purpose performing arts and entertainment center within a bond that only spoke about performing arts culture and libraries, and never mentioned sports. And the city insists that it has the right to build a sports arena and that it can build it in Duranguito. When the pandemic hit El Paso, I realized that there were a lot of things that I had learned in dealing with other disasters that could be applied to this. So when we had the flooding in El Paso in 2006, and then the economic recession in 2008, and the mass shooting of last year, each of those disasters required us to focus on the economic impact of people losing their jobs, people having medical bills, etc. And this is, of course, a very unique situation, but I've been lucky to be able to call upon a lot of experts at Legal Aid and to also be a part of teams that are designing programs that can readily help people who are dealing with a number of issues. I love this community because El Pasoans have really good hearts, and sometimes it's easy to dismiss El Pasoans as being, politically unengaged, but I don't think that's true. I think that El Pasoans just haven't been spoken to in a way that they deserve, and I love there's just so much creative energy here, and so I love my community for a number of reasons, including those. And if you want more information about the campaign, our website is vettoformayor.com. Thanks.
Tacoma Community College, thank you so much for inviting me back. I especially want to thank the Office of Student Engagement at Tacoma Community College and the staff there for believing in my work and for this awesome opportunity, for allowing me to express myself as an artist and to show you what I've been up to. I hope you have learned something from this, and I also just thank you. Gracias.